Hello, this is the Growth League podcast. My name is Caleb Clark, and my mission for this show is pretty simple. It's to learn from marketers on how they're playing the great game of marketing leadership. Their ideas, experiences, perspective, wins and losses, and the playbook that they've established over time. Listen, there's more than one way to lead a marketing team and a marketing function. So if you're a VP, a CMO, director, or someone aspiring to fill one of these marketing leadership roles in the future, tune in to learn from some of the best in the business.
To come up with their own, it was about thinking about your own personal brand. And so it was, he wanted everyone to think about two words that represented their brand. And I cheated and I added one more. So mine was to be kind, be curious, and inspire. So those three things that I think about all the time, and try to live, try to be a leader like that too.
Phoebe Dey, the Chief Marketing Officer of Cystic Fibrosis Canada. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
So as you know, this show is all about learning about your unique journey as a marketing leader, the playbook you've established over the years at different stops along the way, the experiences you've had, the perspectives you've gained. And so can you tell us a little bit about your journey thus far as a marketing leader? What ultimately brought you to cystic fibrosis?
Sure. So I studied journalism in university, went to Concordia University in Montreal, and then did a little bit of reporting, print. I like to be behind the scenes, and then pretty quickly went to, I think what they call the dark side, so did public affairs and public relations at the University of Alberta. And then I left the university for a while, and I had two young boys, and was going to do some freelance work. Then my personal life changed, and I ended up having to go back to work, and reached out to an old boss who was at the Alberta Cancer Foundation and asked if she would be my reference for a job I was applying for. And she said, if you're going back to work, come back to the Alberta Cancer Foundation and work with me, or come to the foundation. So I did. I went in on a 4-month contract, ended up staying there for 13 years. Jeez. But it was an incredible experience in terms of they did a really great job of succession planning. So about 4 months into my time at Alberta, that boss was no longer with Alberta Cancer Foundation. Okay. So I got to act in her role for about a year until they did find a new VP Communications and Marketing. Yeah. I knew at that time I was not ready for it. It was definitely a temporary acting position. And then when they found someone, they still kept me at the executive team. So I got to still be behind the scenes, learn, really co-lead our team with the VP. And then when she left 4 or 5 years later, I was ready then to step into the role. So really good experience there. And then after 13 years, as I said, I just wanted to challenge myself to do something different. The opportunity came up with Cystic Fibrosis Canada, and I had the conversation with them, and then thought, let's see if I can do what we've done with cancer, with a disease that not as many people know about. There aren't as many people impacted by it, and I made the leap almost a year ago.
So when you say you saw it as a challenge to apply what you guys are doing at the Cancer Foundation, tell me more about that. Why was it a challenge?
Well, philanthropy is a challenging field for sure. You have to, there's a lot of competition for donor dollars, and it's people's hard-earned money that they give or invest for often not tangible things that they can see. Right. Cancer, so many people know about. In Alberta, it's 1 in 2 people. You're going to be talking to my former colleague, Brianne Krause from the Alberta Cancer Foundation. She'll tell you more. She's fabulous. But and almost anyone you talk to knows someone or has a personal cancer story. So for me, it was the challenge of getting in front of an audience and a country where there's 4,500 people who live with cystic fibrosis. Not a lot of people know what it is. It's like the trajectory of the disease is improving slowly, and there are some really great stories. People are living much longer, but it's still a fatal disease. There's no cure. A lot of people are still dying from it. So it was that challenge of how do you inspire people to give? How do you paint that picture where make it relatable when people don't know many people who have had cystic fibrosis? So, and how do you do that on a very lean budget? It's a national organization, a national charity, but because it's not as well known, you don't raise as much money as often, say, like a cancer organization does. So it was a challenge of how do you create equally compelling, inspiring things, do good work for a community that is really fighting for their lives. And so it's trying to take a lot of that knowledge from the cancer, but then I quickly learned that you can't just, they're completely different audiences. So you think that let's see if we can kind of mimic what we did here, but it's much more of a grassroots community.
Right.
My first maybe couple weeks with Cystic Fibrosis Canada, my CEO, my boss, and the Chief Development Officer had said, if you think that people are passionate about cancer and they'll fight hard for cancer, you haven't met the cystic fibrosis community yet.
Interesting.
And they were very right. This community has an awful lot to lose, and if they don't speak, advocate, shout from the rooftops, who's going to do it?
So what is it about that you seeking intentionally something that was more challenging than what you were doing on a day-to-day basis? Where does that come from?
Well, I know that I'm a lifelong learner. I always like to push myself as hard as I can, and even I never ever got complacent at Alberta Cancer Foundation. Maybe there were times when I was comfortable.
Yeah.
But there was always something new or something innovative, a different way to produce an annual report, a different way to connect with your community. So it was more learn about something else. It's you don't start to doubt yourself, but you do question yourself. Sure. Like, could I do this somewhere else? And then a lot of times I might. I don't think I talked myself out of any other positions or applying for anything else, but it also had to feel right in my gut for me. And this one actually I was out for a walk with my sister. We were walking her dog, and she had just come from a fundraiser for kids with cancer, and was talking about how important that is and how compelling it is. It's kids and cancer. Who doesn't want to give to that? And then she said, but there are also a lot of causes that need attention to, and that's when I said, well, I actually just in a conversation with a recruiter from Cystic Fibrosis Canada, and she said, like that, there are other causes that need that attention too. So to challenge myself, I try and challenge myself daily, weekly. This was career-wise, and joining a national charity was of interest to me.
Yeah.
To work for a provincial one, leading a team across the country was of interest.
Yeah.
So that was a big challenge on a personal and professional level, but I am challenging myself every day.
Good for you. That's awesome. It's growth. It's motivating.
Mm-hmm.
It's let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's a word of encouragement for all marketing leaders out there. Now, what got you here won't get you there. What have you learned about yourself as a marketing leader over the last year, and especially within this transition time? Is there anything that bubbles to the surface? Is like, didn't know that, but it's palpable to me now.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is because I work remotely, so I work in Edmonton, and as I said, the team is across the country. Most of my team's in Toronto, one's in, or the Toronto area, one's in BC, and on the executive team, I'm the only one that's not in and around Toronto. So I have always prided myself on building relationships with people.
Okay.
And so I think that has probably been the biggest thing in the last year, where I'm behind a screen. Mm-hmm. It's hard to come into a new organization for people to get to know who you are, and then once they know who you are, they know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
They'll know that I have good intentions always. So that's been a little bit harder, is that I keep saying it's hard to be as charming behind a screen as it is in real life. Yes, exactly. Like if you're in a room with someone, you might be able to whisper little things and have little asides and get to know people, and or compliment what they're wearing because you see them every day, or make jokes. But when you're in a meeting online or in front of a screen and a camera, there's not as much opportunity to do that. So I've had to think about how to intentionally get to know people in different ways. And when I am in the office in Toronto, take that time to have those conversations. And so that's kind of from the relationship building piece. And then the other piece with Cystic Fibrosis Canada that I've never done before is we do a lot of advocacy work. So I've loved learning about that. And I ask a lot of questions in every single meeting, and will often apologize and say, I know this will seem simple to you, but why do we do it like this? And then what's going to happen? And then once this is announced, what will the next step be? So that's been one of the reasons I took the job, was to challenge and learn new skill sets and different things. Yeah. And so that's been a big one for me. And then I think the other one was, as I said, I probably went in thinking I'm just going to try and maybe replicate some of the work we did in my previous job. We produced a lot of really high quality stuff, and it was very, very impactful and compelling. So I think went into this new one thinking, well, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. But as I said, I learned quickly the audience is quite different. Yeah. So it's not going to be as meaningful to them. So have quickly had to change my approach and thinking and focus on the people, meet them where they are, what's important to them rather than the product.
Right. Tell me a little bit about what does leadership look like to you, and what's been your playbook on establishing team? So managing, empowerment, leading them in the right direction. What have you established as your go-to process for that, or way of doing it?
I'm not a big process person, but I will say that I have probably an approach. And actually, I was just thinking about this, that maybe it was 5 or 6 years ago, I was here at the gathering, and the CMO for Airbnb was giving a talk, and one of the things, the takeaways was that he wanted everyone to come up with their own, it was about thinking about your own personal brand. And so he wanted everyone to think about 2 words that represented their brand, and I cheated and I added one more. So mine was to be kind, be curious, and inspire. So those 3 things that I think about all the time, and try to live, try to be a leader like that too. Mm-hmm. I think in the last couple of years, especially during COVID times, there was a lot of talk about leadership, and I've heard it in some sessions today about being a humble leader and being a caring leader, and that drives everything that I do. And so in terms of maybe not process, but I want people to know that I care about them truly. Anytime we're in meetings, as I said, I ask a lot of questions. I try to get to know people because I am very, very curious, and I'm interested. It's not just for the sake of asking the questions. And then I think what you do is you get a team that feels safe. They feel trusted. Totally. I trust my team. They're smarter than me in many, many ways. So I will always say, I will provide some support. If you need more, let me know. But I empower them to do their own things, and they do much better work without me in the way. But as I mentioned, Brianne, who you'll be talking to from the Alberta Cancer Foundation, a couple of years ago, we did a team building exercise. And we had to say something about the person beside us. Yeah. And what she said was something nice about the person beside us. And Brianne said, Phoebe, you are a very kind leader, but no one wants to disappoint you. And I thought that was a really good way to describe how we work. I have a certain expectation in terms of producing good work, but never with a firm hand or out of fear. That's
awesome, because I think so many marketing leaders are told that you can be kind and a pushover, or you can be firm and no one will disappoint you. Mm-hmm. And how do you marry the two? I think that's next level stuff.
Well, yeah, and I think that's changed in the last couple of years, where we've heard a lot of conversations around soft skills they're not soft skills anymore. So you'll get the most out of people if they want to work with you and alongside you, and they see you modeling certain behaviors, then they'll model it with their teams. So that has always been my approach, and I am still friends with many of those people that have been on teams today. But I think it is that misunderstanding that being kind, you won't get the same products or results. And I will probably always be the softest spoken executive on my team, where I have to raise my hand to get my voice heard a lot. But I think that what has happened is that people know if I am going to speak, it's because it's well thought out and they will listen to what I have to say.
That's huge. That's awesome. You alluded to it earlier. It's unbelievable what you can get out of people on your team and out of impact or just results overall at the marketing function when people feel safe, when they feel that they can trust just the bare minimum of their emotional security in their workplace, right? That gives them the platform from which to discuss and debate.
It does.
To disagree and commit, and then to go. If you don't have that, what's the point?
No, and I was really paying attention yesterday to one of the sessions that Paolo from King Ursa gave, and it was on trust.
Right.
And he talked exactly about that. It was that it seems like trust has deteriorated a little bit in the marketing world in the last couple of years. We often have to earn our credibility or constantly show it, and it's a job where you have to get a thick skin because every single person knows, how to do your job. If it's marketing or communications.
The CEO's nephew knows how to do it.
Yes, yeah, and it's also on display for everyone to see. So he talked about trust a lot in that, and it made me go back and think about our teams. There's always kind of healthy tension between functions in an organization. In the nonprofit world, it can sometimes be between the communications team, marketing communications team, and the fundraising team. And I've worked really hard at every organization that I've been at to make sure that my fellow fundraising leader and I are very aligned, that the rest of the team see that. And so that approach to making sure, as we were talking about, that people feel they have that psychological safety.
Yeah.
Also, I think then if they get to know each other as people first and build that trust with each other, then everyone will know that when we wake up in the morning, get to work, we are trying to make ourselves, our team, each other, the organization look as best as we possibly can. Like we come with the best intentions.
So how do you do that? It's not easy to be kind and be friendly and be almost friends with people you work with, and then when a timeline gets missed or a project gets dropped, making it very clear where you stand, and how do you...
Yeah, it's I think because you are kind and friendly, then when you do have to have those conversations, it's that like being a mother that you don't want to disappoint someone, so someone will work hard to not meet the timeline perhaps, but it's also then if I have the conversation with someone, as I said, they know I'm coming from a good place. So It's not,
okay.
Yeah, and I would always, whatever I'm framing, it's in a kind way, but not in a pushover way. Like, here's what we expect.
What scares you the most about the function, the role, being a marketing leader? What maybe keeps you up at night, causes pain? What creates fear for you?
I don't know if it's fear, but probably the people piece keeps me up at night the most, just in terms of making sure people are working well together. Am I giving them what they need, or are they developing in ways that they should be and we want them to? But I think it is, I'm going to guess a lot of leaders and teams would say that it's doing so much with so little. And a lot of marketing teams like ours punches way above its weight, what they're able to get done with the team that they have. Like as soon as I stepped into the Cystic Fibrosis Canada kind of offices and doors, or virtual doors, I kept saying, this is fast and furious. It's so much work, but it's, if you're trying to convince a federal or provincial government to approve a treatment for cystic fibrosis for kids or adults who need it, then of course people have urgency behind what they're doing. Right. So you see what's at stake. So I think that's probably it, is how to make sure that the team still continues to do that good work, but also finds that elusive balance in their life. My very first meeting with the entire team, I said to them, so what do you do for like mental health breaks during the day, or how do you balance? And they were all silent. They just kind of stared at me like, we work from start to finish, we don't get up from our desks. And I did say to them, well, I sometimes will schedule in a walk during the day. If I need to, I might run to the gym and do a spin class, and I'm going to tell you about that. just to model that so they see that. And when I come back, I will be much more productive than I was before. So I think it's that's a big piece, is how to is doing so much with so little. We just handed in our business plans and budgets last night, and just to see the work ahead, we get to negotiate next week in terms of what we keep and what we stop doing. But I think that's it. It's the resources.
Okay. In your career, whether it be now or in experiences in the past, what have you, again, using the word again, what's been your playbook on establishing really healthy and strong external relationships with marketing partners, partners in any regard, and then how do you create the team feel, regardless of the fact that they're not in the same four walls?
Mm-hmm. We've had the pleasure of working with a lot of external partners from agencies, and most recently, one of the big ones was when I was with Alberta Cancer Foundation. We had launched a $250 million campaign for the new Calgary Cancer Centre, which.
Okay, yeah.
Big congratulations. They recently named the Cancer Centre with a $50 million gift. So, and that the biggest at the beginning, it was a very, very interesting, not project. I mean, it was ongoing. But there are three organizations that were involved: Alberta Cancer Foundation, Alberta Health Services, and the University of Calgary. So all with very different kind of mandates, very different work styles. Brand was different, and we had to bring all three together to figure out how to work well towards the same goal. So I think that my approach is, as I talked about, is building that trust, getting to know people, and for them to get to know me, and always so that we all understand that we are working towards the same goal, even if it's different style, different approach, and that my job is to make sure that we all look successful. Right. So I think even in meetings, it might have been there would be representatives from maybe a couple from each of the organizations there all the time. And one of the biggest points of pride was that it got to a point where someone from, maybe it was a university or Alberta Health Services, might say, "It's okay, Phoebe's at that meeting, I trust that she'll represent us all well." That was the ultimate compliment, because otherwise everyone's in, no matter what kind of work, it's making sure we're represented and no one's left behind. But for someone to say, and I would have done the same thing, that you can attend, I trust you, we've built this relationship that we'll speak on each other's behalf.
That's awesome. That is the ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
It's a proxy for everything else you've done.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What happens for you when inevitably that voice comes in and says, you have no idea what you're doing as a professional, as a marketing leader, you have no business being here? Like, what happens for you when that happens?
It happens a lot still. And actually, even being here, when I hear Ryan Gill talk about the CMOs of the biggest brands, even when he says CMO, I have to say, oh my gosh, I'm a CMO. Like it doesn't hit me all the time.
Right.
So probably the first couple weeks in my new job, that was my big question. Do I know what I'm doing? Maybe I've been faking it for the last 15 years, and I've been lucky a couple times more than anything.
I don't think that's true, but
highs and low days. And I think I said to my new CEO a couple months ago, I am happy to see that I do know what I'm doing. Like, there are times when I doubt myself, but I'm the very first person to say, I'm not sure about that. Let's ask so-and-so. Or I will ask a lot of people, how would you approach it? What do you think? What do you recommend? And kind of expect that with the team is to bring recommendations too. But so it does still happen a lot. And I think that what it does for me is I'll have to reflect on, you do know this, you do know that, and if you don't know, learn. And if I don't know something, I will research the crap out of it, just so I can at least understand it. But it's also good to remind yourself when you do know things well. And my CEO says the same thing. She'll say, and she's the CEO of an organization, that I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still figuring things out.
It probably takes more courage to say that than it does, otherwise. It actually demonstrates your intellect and you're smart and you're professionalism? You're like, I have no idea. So let's just get to the answer quicker by not wasting time trying to figure it, pretending that I know.
No, it's true.
Let's say you were to start a new posting at a brand new job tomorrow. Tell us a little bit about what you maybe intentionally do or had done in this case to best use your first 30 days. Brand new organization, maybe you know nothing about the product, the service, the vision, the mission. What would you encourage other marketing leaders in that position?
Well, my former CEO at Alberta Cancer Foundation, who's also here, had recommended the book, The First 90 Days.
Oh.
So, and now I can't remember who the author is, but I spent a lot of time reading that and making notes about it. And then it tells you what kind of approaches to do, where you should put your energy, find a champion, figure out the politics, of the organization. And what I told myself was I'm going to go in and listen, which I do. I think I'm a good listener. So it was also, it's very hard not to try and show what you know right away, because you want to prove that they didn't just hire a dud, that I do know things. But I also, having been with an organization for 13 years, I've seen many new people come in and say, you guys should do this, or have you thought about doing that? And every single time we probably had. So as tempting as it was to say that in my new job, I asked more questions, like what is our regular approach to doing this, or what have you done in the past, those kind of things. So I think in the first 2 weeks I made one thing where at the end of the day I was like, why did I say that? I promised myself I would listen, and then
I do that
back
all the time.
It's hard.
I don't know what that is. And it's like, I'm going to go into this conversation and be curious. And then I'm like, and then the advice monster comes out.
I know. It's hard not to, because you want to show that you have a brain.
Right.
And that you can contribute to the work. So it's hard to kind of sit in your hands, and even though I might say in my head, it's like, why are you doing it this way, do this way? I would ask some questions to be curious instead.
Right. What do you and your team do to facilitate integration of the marketing function and your strategy and things you're doing across the other critical areas of the organization? It's not always easy to do, but how do you penetrate those stakeholder relations?
I've been very lucky with the CEOs that I've had. I think in the communications and marketing space, you often hear that this team is looking for a seat at the table. Yeah. And in both organizations have had CEOs that recognize the importance of the seat at your table. And I think have viewed my role, whoever's in it, as an integrator, a connector across the organization, because you can see all of those things. So those are the conversations that I've been having with my CEO as I joined here. As that was her expectation: is you are integrating this work across the organization, and that's what she expects of me. And I love that, because
fortunate you are for that.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I recognize it's an anomaly, because I've been at many comms conferences. That's the session: how to earn your seat at the table, and I've had one there for many years. Thankfully, because it's been recognized, the importance of it.
Right.
And so, as I said, we're in the middle of business planning right now, and we're not just we're meeting with the different functions, but we're tying everything we do right across, from fundraising to mission to research to advocacy, making sure that there is a thread that all is tying up to our strategy and to our goals.
And that's your job.
It is my job. Yeah. So it's. I love that part, and when I'm in the meetings, I'll say I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I know we're thinking about it for just clinical trials work and telling the story over there, but we have a fundraising campaign that we could tell it over here, or whatever it is.
Why do you love that?
I think it's just being able to connect the dots, and not to, segmenting things is important in its own right, but just you get much more impact when it goes across the organization. And I think it's a unique view that we have because of our roles that others in the organization don't get to see. And just to tie it all up to our strategy and what we're trying to achieve as an organization just makes it really good.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good nugget of truth. And what I'm picking up is that rather than thinking about how do you earn your seat at the table, what about defining a whole new table or a whole new seat?
Well, that's it. I think that it'd be interesting to know, say, how many CEOs or CMOs are in communication first. And not that that's actually necessarily a path that I want to take. I'm quite comfortable where I am. But I think the role has evolved to, so much more than marketing and communications. It is that integration. And so it's showing the value of what you bring to the table. That I have a great team that does all the execution and not just execution, the strategy too. But this has allowed me. I was thinking about where my work has been in the last few months, of what I've actually been doing, and it is very high level. We're creating a new mission and vision. We just have launched new values. Unrolling the strat plan. So a lot of that stuff doesn't even feel like marketing and communications necessarily. Yeah. But that's where I've been spending most of my time in the last little while.
Redefining the whole function. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about, maybe you should have asked this before, but outside of the work you do on a daily basis within the mandate, who's Phoebe? What fills you up? What allows you to have the energy required to do the things within your job and be kind and be curious? Like what fills you up outside of the function?
Well, I mentioned before when I went back to work when my family had changed. So I think that my biggest driving factor is probably what I'm most proud of in my life. I have 2 boys, and I was a single mom and raised them pretty much on my own for most of their lives. Yeah. And that's hard enough as it is, but what I'm most proud of about that is I think I managed to do both of them pretty well. My boys are now almost 22 and almost 19, and I really, really like them. They're very nice boys who had to learn to be independent. Yeah. Because they knew what the pressures were, and I've had big jobs for most of their lives. But also I don't think I sacrificed with either of them. So I didn't sacrifice on my career, and also didn't sacrifice with being a good mom to them, and worked really, really hard to get to set them up well for life. And I think I have, and we'll see. But as I said, I quite like them.
That's funny. Never heard. When you say it like that, it sounds better than love almost.
Well, I think
every mom, yes. Well, not every mom, but most moms love their kids.
They do.
I really like them.
I do. I just really enjoy. I was just messaging with one of them just now, but
that's awesome.
So yeah, that has been my driving factor, and I think when that's the only kind of world you go through it and get it done. But I've also never been apologetic for taking care of myself either. Like there's the mom guilt phrase, and I don't think I ever had that, where I would say, I'm going to go for a run, you guys are going to have to be on your own, or I'm going to do this. I think it was probably survival more than self-care. Sure. Yeah. It was, I knew what I needed to do to make sure that I could do both of those jobs really well. So good conversations, family. I'm the middle of 3 girls, and grew up in a house with parents, especially my mom, who was extremely curious, asks an awful lot of questions. She and my dad were very well educated, which was important, but we had conversation all the time in our house. Amazing. And still do, and I'm in a group chat with them every single day, where if it almost gets to the end of the day, someone will just say hi, so it doesn't we don't miss a day. But yeah, as I said, always love to learn from. I've already filled up probably 5 pages of notes from this conference here, and thinking about how I can apply them. And I'm an introvert that straddles the extrovert line, so I love conversations, but probably on Saturday I'll be exhausted from this conference.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. But good friends and family that fill my bucket.
That's awesome.
All the time.
Well, thank you so much for telling us about the way you're playing this game. There's a lot of different ways to play the game. I think you've left us with a lot of things to think about as it relates to, how to do it so that you can be a good person and deliver a mandate.
Yeah, and
you can do both.
You can do both, and I think for all the kind of quiet leaders, that's
leaders.
Yeah, I'd see other people that were quiet, and I'd think that's how I want to be. I don't have to be the one who's got the loudest voice in the room and maybe is talking the most, but I think about those three things to describe my brand all the time: be kind, be curious, and inspire, and it drives me all the time.
That's awesome. Everyone, Phoebe Dey, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.